You're listening to the Make a Baby podcast. I'm Carolina Sotomayor, your Reiki womb healer and podcast host. Before we jump in, I just want to give you a shout out to all of our listeners. Thank you for helping us reach globally top 5%. I would love for you to take a moment and leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We appreciate all of your support and we love hearing from you. Today, we're talking about a very important topic that affects every woman, and we have a very special guest, and I can't wait to discuss all these things. Today, we are talking about want pain-free periods? Listen up. And we have a special guest. Hi, Laura. Can you please introduce yourself and tell us where you are in the world?
So, hi, thank you so much for having me here today. So, I'm Laura Pizzetti, and I'm a nutritional therapist and a naturopath, and I specialize in women's health. I have a special focus on the menstrual cycle. So, I help women that struggles with period pain and PMS, irregularities, or missing periods. I really want them to finally love their period. And finally get in tune with their feminine body and do everything they love, because we shouldn't be held back by our period, really. And
Are you my
yeah.
soul sister? You're saying everything that I live for.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, it's just, I feel like women should really feel in tune with their body more than we actually are. Yeah.
Absolutely. Where are you located in the world? I always ask, like, where are you residing in the world?
So I am based in London, in UK, but I see clients all over the world
So
online.
you are a global mogul.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
love that for us. Okay, so let's dive in. What pain-free periods? I think this concept of like your period shouldn't hurt is not well known. And I didn't always know this. I do now. And a lot of my education has come from this podcast by having experts like yourself come on. And 2 months ago, so this cycle and the last cycle were pain-free. But that had never happened to me before in my life. And so
It's
basically,
amazing.
it's an amazing feeling, and I was like, "Wait a minute, I have my period and I'm not in bed cramping." Should your period hurt? Can you explain that?
So, short answer is no. They shouldn't hurt and they shouldn't be painful. They shouldn't stop you from doing things in your life. They shouldn't, stop you to do things that you love. They shouldn't take out a time off from work or things like that. It can be light crampings or aches, but it shouldn't need a pain medication for it, if it makes sense. So they should come, your period shouldn't make you feel sick, stuck in bed, basically, or canceling personal events because of it.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
This is very personal and vulnerable, and people are like, "Whatever." So, I always like, with my family members, and our periods are pretty synced, though we don't live together, but we talk so much. So I'm like, "Do you have your period poop?" She goes, "I have my period poops." I was like, "Oh, it must be genetic." What are period poops? Because when I talk to other women, poop is different when you're on your period. Why is that? Is that normal?
So that's interesting because I was going to talk about it after.
Really?
Yes, yeah, because that's connected also with the pain. So it's when we have period poop. So that means the loose stool or diarrhea is because we have these increased prostaglandins, which are hormone-like substances, and these are making contraction in the uterine lining to sort of excrete the uterine lining, and so you have your period. So it's shedding. It's helping to shed your uterine lining. And that's also because it has this function to contract muscle that is also contracting the nearby muscle in the intestine. That can cause having some more contraction in the intestine, and then that's when you have loose stool. So that it all connected. So usually when you have a painful period, you also have a period poop. Yeah.
Yeah. So is there a
Yeah.
way to stop period poops? They're super not
Yes.
painful.
So it's connected with the pain. So we can reduce prostaglandins. So these are these hormone-like substances that creates the pain. And so basically that goes to what is causing period pain in terms of this high level of prostaglandins. And that causes the uterus to contract. And when we have two types of prostaglandins, one is anti-inflammatory and one is pro-inflammatory. So everything is about inflammation. And we do need them in both in the right amount, because we do need them to release that and shed the uterine lining.
Right.
But the more you have these pro-inflammatory prostaglandins, the more you have, the more painful your period would be, because there is more inflammation going on, and also you would have more loose stool. So that thing is always, I like to ask, why do we have the pain? So the pain is because there is inflammation in there. And so when we resolve the inflammation, we can also resolve the pain and resolve the period poop too. Yeah, if it makes sense.
So then why do we have the inflammation? Where does the inflammation come from?
So inflammation can come from different things. It can be from poor diet, from
Okay.
stress. So some diet choice that we have, I can go through now after in the next. But also stress is a big one. And I think we live in a very bizarre modern time.
Isn't it? Isn't like the most wild time to be alive?
Yes. And I would like to say, like, our stress, so cortisol is our stress hormones, and cortisol and insulin. So the insulin is the hormone that balances blood sugar. How all of these are connected to our sex hormones. So all hormones are connected to each other. It's like a cascade. And when one hormone is out of balance, the all other follows. And I want to really enlighten this for the stress response, because you think about the hunter-gatherer people when they were just very calmly picking up some berries, and then suddenly a lion comes out, right? And then that cortisol is kicking in, and it's kicking in the glucose as well, so the sugar, to put that sugar into energy to run for their life. So when they're safe, that cortisol response is getting down, and they're safe and they're fine. But what happened? So cortisol actually saves your life, but what happened in this day, because it's got such a bad rap, it's because our lion that they were coming once a year or twice a year. Now there are our 24/7 lions, like the 24/7 bombardment of news and social media, email, the mortgage that we have to pay, the family and the relationship,
For
and the
me, it was
light
traffic.
pollution. Yeah, traffic jam,
Yeah.
absolutely.
When I used to live in a large city, when I used to live in Miami, traffic would give me panic attacks on the daily.
Yeah, so traffic and the light pollution, noise pollution as well.
Mm.
We don't realize how much these impact our stress. And so when we have high level of stress, then our hormones as well are impacted. Yeah.
So what are the 3 most important things for women to reduce stress or eliminate pain from their period? I know you talked about stress.
Yeah.
How would we go about what are the 3 most important things?
So, firstly, because we talk about that inflammation, I think we should start lowering that inflammation. And so, reducing that pro inflammatory prostaglandin. And one thing, because the Western diet is high in.
I'm drinking such a sugary coffee.
No, I would say more like rich in omega-6 fatty acid, and low in anti-inflammatory omega-3.
I feel
So
so guilty right now because I'm drinking
no,
this.
you shouldn't. You enjoy it. Enjoy it.
Like the epitome of the Western woman. Like, what
Wow.
did the American have for breakfast? A sugary coffee.
And some cereal.
I haven't even eaten yet. I'm just like, I know I'm increasing my
Oh no.
cortisol. It's like I'm drinking
Yeah.
coffee.
That would be one of them. Never drink coffee on empty stomach.
Which I do daily. My face hurts. My cheeks hurt. Keep going. I'm guilty charged.
So, well, to support that, reducing inflammation, so the omega-6 fatty acid, they are very rich in this Western diet, but in putting some omega-3 in there, they are very anti-inflammatory. So these are foods like oily fish, like salmon, sardine, herrings, mackerel. These are very high in omega-3 and they are very
Matter.
anti-inflammatory.
Does it matter if it's farm raised or wild?
Absolutely matters. Yeah. So it's
It
got
does.
to be, yeah, it has to be wild. So we always go into the quality of the food. It's really important for the nutritional value. And there are other form that the highest form that can be vegan form is seaweed as well. So we can introduce some seaweed into the diet. That's quite a good introduction as well for vegan. There are also other food like anti-inflammatory food like ginger, garlic, turmeric, rosemary that are very powerful to reduce inflammation and that can be added daily to the diet.
How would one consume
Uh,
that? Would that be like in capsules or just adding those spices to your food? Or I once went to this really cool modern coffee shop that had a turmeric oat milk drink, and it was anti-inflammatory beverage, but it was all turmeric and cinnamon, and my husband loved it. I didn't, but is it something like that, or what dosage do you know is appropriate? Does it work with a person like you, or how does one figure out, like, what is enough to do something like sprinkling a little cinnamon on your toast or something like that, or on your sweet potatoes or whatever it is that you're doing? How do you know it is enough for it to have a large impact?
so with food, have enough impact. So it's extremely helpful. I always say let's start with food first because if
No,
you
but, like,
don't,
so sorry to interrupt you, but
that's
for a
fine.
person that knows nothing, but they know that they
Yeah.
have fertility issues and they know it's rooted in their period pain, or they just like, okay, so we always assume and are always told healthy periods make healthy babies. So we have to start with, do you have a period and is your period painful when you get it? So let's start there. So, but like when you're introducing turmeric or garlic, how do you know how much to use in your diet for it to have an impact on your period? Like, how do you know the dosage of that? Do you use a teaspoon, a quarter a teaspoon? How does one go about figuring that out?
So I normally suggest 1 teaspoon of turmeric a day.
Okay.
That should be enough. And then ginger as well, about, I don't know if America centimeter. So 1 to 2 centimeter. It's maybe 1 inch, I would say. I
Do
think.
you just eat it?
Yes, you can grate it. You can put it into food, like a shot, turmeric ginger
Oh,
shot.
I've seen those. Yeah, so you can take a wellness
Yeah,
shot. With the
yeah.
turmeric, is the I've seen turmeric most commonly in, like, powder form. What is the most appropriate form of turmeric to be consumed for it to have an impact on you?
Either way, it doesn't, either powder or fresh as well. It's the same. It's just how it works well for the person because it's also make it easier for them. If it's, it's quite difficult because it's stained when it's fresh, then, some
Maybe.
people just, yeah, they are a bit put off with that. So it works even in powder. Garlic, I would say no. Garlic, it's better fresh and crushed. And because the enzyme need to work on the properties, on the medicinal property, it needs to wait 10 minutes before being used.
Oh,
So
I
it
didn't
needs
know
to
that.
rest. So means rest for 10 minutes with the garlic. And it shouldn't be cooked as well at high temperature because it's reduce the powerful properties. So it should be eaten raw, or if you are like adding it to vegetables, you can just put it at the very end, basically without
Oh, the very
cooking.
ending. Gotcha. I have a question about meat. Can red meat cause inflammatory consequences?
It depends on the quality. So grass-fed meat is actually a really great source of omega-3, the one we were just talking about. So actually it's amazing things to add and it's really healthy for the menstrual cycle and for the period. So I would add it if it's grass-fed meat. So if it's grain-fed, then it is inflammatory, absolutely. So the quality, we always there with the quality is very crucial.
Okay. I'm sorry, I have made you go on tangent. So let's recap what the 3 most important things a woman can do to reduce pain. Number 1 was what?
So the number one is to add anti-inflammatory food like omega-3 rich food, so oily fish or turmeric, ginger, and garlic. And I don't like the approach so much of removing. I would like women to know more on seed how what we can add rather than what we can remove. But in this case, I would want to say we need to remove vegetable oils. So vegetable oils are very inflammatory and a major cause of period pain. So
Oils
yeah,
do you suggest to use?
so the one to remove, I want to make sure everyone understand this first. The vegetable oil is the sunflower oil or canola oil, this kind of oil. And the one that we should use is a cold press extra virgin olive oil or cold press coconut oil or grass fed butter as, a fat basically.
The butter can be replacement for olive
So
oil?
yeah, so it can be used, one day we can use olive oil, one other day it can be used grass-fed butter. It's just,
We
yeah,
have kind of complications in our house. We have my son who's deathly allergic to coconut, and we're also both dairy intolerant, like lactose intolerant. So
okay.
we do a fine line between how much we can tolerate between the dairy, and we always do
Yeah.
the olive oil. So, and what is the third thing?
So I really suggest to balancing blood sugar level because as well that, as I said earlier,
Okay.
yeah, as I said, like all hormones are connected to each other. So I always focus on having meals that are rich in protein, healthy fat, and fiber. And especially for breakfast, because breakfast is what is creating all the blood sugar response throughout the day. And I like to start slowly with my clients as well because I understand that habits don't just change overnight and it's sometimes difficult. And so, okay, let's just get the breakfast right and then we can move on to the other meals. And so I suggest always to have a protein source, a fat source, and fiber. The protein that can be, like we said, grass fed meat and organic poultry, organic eggs, wild fish and seafood, organic beans and lentil, and the other fats like healthy fats, so avocado, olives, nuts and seeds, grass-fed butter, olive oil, coconut oil, but also like you mentioned about lactose intolerance. So sometimes the ghee as well is it can be more tolerated because they
Oh,
remove that
ghee.
ghee. Yeah.
I have actually never eaten it. I have a friend. What exactly is ghee?
So it's the clarified butter, so they remove that part, so there is no lactose.
Oh, I'm gonna have to try it. I'm gonna get it.
Yeah.
And what do you wish for women to know about their menstrual health?
So I don't know about you, but my menstrual health education was an epic fail in
Oh,
secondary
no, no.
school.
You guys knew that
There
your
was no,
period is a
yeah, exactly. So it's
path.
just, yeah, it's just that I had no knowledge on the menstrual cycle and no knowledge on my period, on my feminine body. And I was left a little bit traumatized almost because, there was nothing. So I think it's crazy because we spend 35 to 40 years with our periods. And I think that women should know more about it. They should know more about their body. And so I would like to tell them a little bit that first, like you said, you mentioned earlier, the menstrual cycle and fertility are really tied together. Sometimes I get women say, I want to have painless period, but I don't want to get pregnant or I don't want to enhance my fertility, but it doesn't work like that. They are together. So a healthy cycle is a cycle that could get you pregnant if you want to. So it's allowing you to get pregnant if you want to. And that's very important to understand. So I would like to tell them more about how a period should be like so they maybe can look more into what to look for and what
Okay.
to look out for. So the length of the menstrual cycle that it's used to be like the perfect menstrual health, the perfect menstrual length would be 28 days. It's not really true. It's between 25 to 35 days. So this is optimal for hormonal health and fertility, but it fluctuates by 2 to 3 days depending on you. So what I mean is the consistency of the individual cycle. So is it, for me, is 25 days, so it should fluctuate around there. So 25, 26, 27, right? So I know that if it's longer than that, so if it comes to 30, for me, it's not my normal. And then I should ask myself some questions like, okay, so why did I have this long cycle? Or why did I have a shorter cycle? And you can have some clue with that. So the consistency of the individual, that is what's important. So shorter cycles should tend to be for women who have low progesterone. So, and maybe a delayed, who has longer cycle is who indicate a delayed ovulation. So it's usually seen in PCOS.
A lot of listeners have PCOS. It's a number one
Yeah,
thing that I see. Women who
yeah,
are my support for the emotional side of that, yeah, probably like 80% of the women I work with have PCOS.
yeah, absolutely. Very common. Yeah,
Is there
yeah.
anything else about how a regular period should look like? Is
Yeah,
there
so a period should range around 3 to 7 days, the length of the actual period. But normally, like 4 to 5 days, it should be ideal. Definitely longer than 7 days is a sign of estrogen dominance. So there is an imbalance in our hormone. So we have more estrogen and less progesterone. And the blood as well, it shouldn't be too much. So around 60 ml per period. That should be more or less around, like, each soaked pad or tampon is 5 ml. So a half soaked is 2.5. So we never get to the point that is a full soaked pad before we change it. So around a half soak is 2.5 ml. So it should be around 6 to 10 pads in a period. Yeah, in each period.
information? I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned something that's really important. You said a pad should be half filled and that's 2.5 ml. What is that, a length of time attached to that? Or because that can vary depending on your flow. There are
Yeah.
days that are heavier than others.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. So the first days you might change a bit more in the first 3 days, and that's fine. But yeah, I think that in the length of the period, so around 6 to 10 pads in throughout the whole period, basically.
Got it. And
Yeah.
where can people find you on the internet with you to let them know how much they love this episode and their huge takeaways from this? Where can they find you on social?
So I am on Instagram. My name is The Symphony of Health. And also on my website, I offer a free 30 minutes call, a menstrual health review. Yeah. And I also have a free ebook that is a menu plan for, specifically I designed for free period pain, a menu plan.
We're gonna have to link that in the show notes. So if you're listening, you have to get Laura's free menu plan ebook, and we'll put that in the show notes. And we're so excited to have you. For our listeners, I want you to make sure that since you have your phone open, I want you to go to the first line in the show notes. And I would like you to leave us a voice note up to 90 seconds about what you loved about this episode. And don't forget to follow Laura on Instagram and let us know what you want in an upcoming episode. Also, I invite you to enjoy the Reiki Baby movement. I will be sending you a Reiki guided meditation to connect to your spirit baby now, an invitation to join our free Facebook community, and 3 days free inside the Make a Baby membership. I know that you're going to love it inside the membership so much you won't want to leave, but if you don't, that's okay. It's 3 days on me. And when you join, you get a free 10-minute call with me. And until next time, my friends, let the Reiki flow. Frustrated being told you are fine by your doctor, exhausted from negative pregnancy tests every month, wanting a deeper connection on your fertility journey with your spirit baby? The Make a Baby membership is exactly what you need. Using Reiki will help you connect to your spirit baby, heal the trapped emotions blocking fertility, and support you in our life-changing community. With over 90 Reiki babies, we invite you to try the Make a Baby membership for free. Check it out in the show notes. Let's get you pregnant.